Europe's Strongest Man is just a week away from when you're watching this, and I've got to tell you, this is one of the most hyped I have been for a Giants Live competition in a short while. The lineup is stacked, the events look really fun, and we've got some big names returning to Giants Live in Mateusz to come and finally take that Europe's Strongest Man crown. But can he do it? Is the lineup too strong? Do the events suit him? That's what we're going to talk about in today's video. So welcome guys back to another Friday talk. In these Friday talks, every single Friday, we tend to talk about the pro strongman scene, but also about general strength training, strongman stuff across the board. But on this channel, we also do our own strongman training here in this garage gym. So if you want to keep up to date with anything pro strongman, but also see my slightly less pro strongman training, then go down below, click subscribe, turn notifications on, and make sure you stay up to date with every single video that I post. But without further ado, let's not mess around any further. Let's dive right in to the Europe's Strongest Man lineup. So first up then, we have the returning two-time champion in Luke Stoltman. He looked absolutely on fire at Britain's Strongest Man. Can he bring that same package to Europe's Strongest Man and make himself a three-time champion? We have another returning champion in Pavlo Kordiaka. Now, these events are fairly interesting for Pavlo. I think he can do some damage on some of them for sure. It'll be interesting to see how his weaknesses hold up in this lineup, but he has a really good shot at making himself a multiple-time champion as well. We have our third Europe's Strongest Man champion here in Luke Richardson, won it all the way back in 2020. Hopefully Luke is bringing the package we know that he can bring. Obviously, he didn't get to show it off at Brits, but hopefully has sorted out whatever troubles he was having there and is able to bring an awesome package to Europe's Strongest Man. I'm really excited to see what sort of shape Luke is in ahead of World's Strongest Man. So hopefully Luke could come in here and again has all the potential to make himself a multiple-time Europe's Strongest Man champion. We have everyone's favourite Mateusz coming back to Europe's Strongest Man for the first time, I believe, since 2019, maybe even earlier. But I'm super excited to see Mateusz here. Obviously, he skipped out on the Arnolds because they weren't the ultimate best events for him to focus on the Europe's Strongest Man competition. And I think Mateusz could do really well here, depending on what shape he is in. Obviously, he is coming back for some pretty tough injuries. So getting your body ready for a high-level competition obviously just took a bit too long to be ready for the Arnolds, but hopefully he is ready for Europe's Strongest Man to come in and absolutely smash it. We then have Mr. Consistent Ivars Schmarkstelis. He is going to be here and just there or thereabouts on pretty much every event. Ivars is one of those people that just puts in a solid performance on pretty much everything. He might not be winning events, he might not be bottoming out on events, but he's just sort of there or thereabouts mid-table on every single event. And I believe it was last year he ended up second by just a hair to Luke Stoltman. It may have been the year before, I can't remember, but he was super, super close. So if he brings that same sort of shape to this lineup, we could be seeing Ivars up on the podium yet again. We then, of course, have Rauno Hainler, the absolute deadlift monster. I'm really intrigued to see Rauno on the deadlift event in this lineup, put up an enormous numbers, even though this isn't the strongest field of deadlifters we have ever seen at Giants Live. We'll go into that a bit more later on when we talk about the deadlift event, but I think Rauno could put in some good numbers, especially on that deadlift, but also across the other events. Some of them aren't his favourite, some of them are. Will be interesting to see what sort of shape Rauno's in. Then we have Par O'Dwyer, the first time we've seen Par at a Giants Live for a little while now, and I'm really intrigued to see what sort of shape Par is in. Obviously, he took a big step back from competing this last year, and he has brought a really good package to Europe's in the past, and I'm interested to see what he can do on some of these events. There are some pretty good events for Par in this competition. So again, really intrigued to see what sort of shape he brings. Now, someone I am super excited to see in this lineup is Andre Foitu. His training has been looking ridiculous. Obviously, his overhead is absolutely monstrous, but he's been bringing up those weaknesses in the deadlift, in the stones, up to a competitive level, and his training's been looking really, really good. So I'm very, very excited to see what sort of package Andre is bringing to Europe's Strongest Man. He might come in and win it. Like, genuinely, he's looking ridiculously good. We then have Nick Cambi representing Italy. Obviously, we saw Nick last year and at last year's World's Strongest Man, and I feel like he could put in a very, very, very solid performance. I'm really intrigued to see how Nick is going to hold up in this lineup. Obviously, he got injured at last year's World's Strongest Man, but he was a phenomenal under 105 athlete, and now he's moved up to the Open, so he is putting in some very, very solid performances, and I'm really excited to see what sort of package he's bringing to Europe's Strongest Man. Now, off the back of Britain's Strongest Man, we have Andy Flynn here, obviously being super impressive at Britain's Strongest Man, coming third and booking his ticket to World's Strongest Man, and also now earning an invite on to the Europe's Strongest Man lineup. Andy, again, he's one of those people like Ivars. He is there on every single event. He is just in the mix every time. We have no idea where he's going to end up on this lineup, but I feel like Andy can definitely upset a few people on a few events. He can get in between people. He's that sort of person which is just there on every event, and if someone makes a mistake, he just slides right in there and takes points off him. So I'm really excited to see Andy perform here, obviously off the back of a really, really good Britain's Strongest Man performance. Now, another man who's off the back of a very, very good Britain's Strongest Man performance is Paddy Haynes. He is in replacing Pavlo Nakonechny, unfortunately, but we have got Paddy, and obviously it's hilarious that the widest strongman's getting replaced by probably the narrowest, but it is comedic. But these events are actually really good for Paddy. I'd say they're probably better than the Britain's Strongest Man events are for Paddy, and people will say the Britain's Strongest Man events were really good for Paddy. Like, I will go into it in more detail when we talk about the events, but having something like a shield carry that rewards athleticism, being quick, being leaner, being able to keep going, that's something Paddy's very good at. And I think the overhead in this competition suits him a bit more than a log does, like at Britain's Strongest Man. And obviously his stones are insane, really, really good. His deadlift's really, really good in a field of not very good deadlifters as well. Obviously, in terms of strongman, in a weakish field of deadlifters, I'd expect Paddy to be up there, top 2 on this deadlift. So I'm actually really excited to see Paddy at this competition. I feel like not a lot of people are talking about him in a lot of the prediction videos, but I feel like he's one of those people that can just make upsets here and there and could have a really good showing. And then rounding out our lineup is Gav Bilton, a last-minute replacement for Alexei Novikov. Obviously, really a shame that we're not seeing Alexei at this competition, but his hemoglobin levels are just dangerously low, really, and that's been a problem for Alexei for a while, and I really hope he gets that anemia sorted, because I just want to see Alexei back to his best, but it doesn't sound like anything he's not trying to do. It's such a shame, and I do worry for Alexei. I hope he gets healthy soon. But we got Gav in, and everyone loves Big Gav. He had not had the best performances the last few times, but since then he has switched coaches. He's been putting in a hell of a graft. So I'm hopeful that we see Gav in a really good package at Europe's Strongest Man and just showcase a bit of that old Gav with a bit of the fight still in him, with a new lease of life, especially now he's not going to World's Strongest Man. Being able to see Gav put his all into Europe's Strongest Man, even with such short notice, will be really cool to see, I think. So that is our monstrous lineup of athletes. As I said, it's probably the best Europe's Strongest Man lineup we have had in a while. It just looks awesome. Obviously, there are the notable names missing of Alexei Novikov, Pavlo Nakonechny, and of course Thor. It's a Giants Live. Thor's not going to do a Giants Live. As much as I wish he would, as much as everyone else wishes he would, we're just going to miss him from Europe's Strongest Man, unfortunately. But other than that, we have got just a very, very solid, a very, very exciting lineup. Now, as for our events, these events are something I am very excited for, because they are pretty good strongman events, but there are some fun little twists in there as well. Obviously, the biggest twist is the overhead medley starting us off. Now, this one is a really interesting event. It is a dumbbell, a safe press, an axle, and a log, but each one you've got to do 2 reps on before you move on to the next. So that means you've got to do 8 total reps on this overhead medley, which is just brutal. I think it's awesome. I think it's going to be a really, really cool event, and I can't wait to see it. We then have the shield carry for max distance. Again, a really fun event when they go head to head, just super, really cool to watch. Not much more to say about the shield carry, just it's really cool. We've got the anchor, carry, and drag. This one's going to be a speed event. Who can get shifting the quickest with this heavy weight? Going to be really super fun. Obviously, again, another head-to-head event. So really exciting. We're going to see some good races on this. And then we've got the staple Giants Live event of the 350 kilo globe axle deadlift for reps and the heavy set of Atlas stones to finish off. So that is our event lineup. That is our athlete lineup. A really good, solid mix of things in there. Let's get into our predictions going event by event. So first up, we have the overhead medley, as I say, and there are a few guys on this lineup that might be able to just absolutely smoke it. I believe it's 2 reps on a 100 kilo dumbbell, 2 reps on a 150 kilo yoke press, and then 2 reps on an axle, 2 reps on a log. Not entirely sure of the weights on those. I'm assuming somewhere 150, 160, that sort of range. So 8 brutal reps on 4 brutal implements here. This one is going to be not only a test of fantastic overhead strength, but that gas tank to be able to stay snappy, stay explosive for that entire 8 reps. It's going to be brutal, but there are a very, very strong list of overhead presses in this lineup that we could see probably do very well on this event. So I really think this event is going to be sort of a bum fight between Luke Stoltman, Mateusz Kieliszkowski, Luke Richardson, and Andre Foytu. Obviously, I think these 4 guys are going to be our top 4. It's just who can get them done quicker. Obviously, people like Pavlo Kordiaka, Nick Camby are very explosive, have every chance to get in between those 4 on this event as well. I just think with explosive, like proper snappy power like that, it's the first thing that sort of gets tired, and across 8 reps on 4 implements, it might be the first thing that starts going. But someone like Pavlo Kordiaka, for example, he's super explosive, super snappy. If he can nail it every rep, he can get this done very, very quickly and cause some upsets for some of those top guys. But I think just from looking at training, Luke Stoltman's looking awesome. Luke Richardson, again, never count out Mateusz. He could come in and just absolutely mog it. And Andre Foytu is just a powerhouse overhead. So I think those 4 are going to be up there in the top of this overhead medley. Now, sort of in the mid-pack, I think Ivar's, Andy Flynn, they're just going to be those guys who can probably finish this medley or get at least like sort of 7 out of 8, 6 out of 8 lifts, just sort of do very, very solid, be in there, be in with a shot at a decent amount of points, get in between various different people. I think Parr is someone who can either do very, very well on this event or not so great. He's got a very explosive split jerk in overhead movements that's very, very snappy. And if he utilizes that well in this event, it could go very, very well for him. I just haven't seen Parr in such a long time. I'm not sure what sort of shape he's in. So if he's in really good Parr shape, he has every chance to do very well in this event. Now, someone else who has learnt to split jerk is obviously the biggest jerk who watches this channel, and that is Paddy Haynes. He has this new skill that he's working on in the split jerk, and I think it's working out fantastically for him. I've seen him do the yoke press in training on his Instagram, and it just looks super smooth. If he can nail that new skill of the split jerk on a few of these implements, Paddy might not be dropping as much points on an overhead as most people have him in their heads as doing so. A lot of people, I think, have him maybe getting a rep or 2 on that dumbbell and not being able to move on past that. But if Paddy can nail the split jerk on the yoke press and then give the split jerk a really good go on the axle, he could be getting some very, very decent points on this overhead medley, which is a bad news for everyone else in the competition because the other events are phenomenal for Paddy. So if he can just nail that split jerk on a few events, obviously it's the first time using that skill in competition, having just learned it in training. So is that going to be a factor? Is that going to change things? I'm not sure, but it'll be very interesting to see. Because if that skill becomes something that's just super ingrained into his skill set and he can start using it on various different overheads that we'll see throughout the year, Paddy can start being a real threat to some of these Giants Live competitions because, as we saw in Britain's Strongest Man, zeroing that overhead cost him a podium position and a ticket to World's Strongest Man. He's not going to want to do that again at his second chance to get to World's Strongest Man. So we'll see how it goes for him. But yeah, that's the overhead medley. I feel like it's going to be an absolute bloodbath of an event with the top sort of 4 or 5 being able to complete the whole thing fairly quickly. And it's going to be who could do it the most quickly, the most efficiently, and just make the overhead medley look easy. I expect we'll see some form of mogging in this event by someone, whether it's Mateusz, whether it's Luke Stoltman, whether it's Andre Foytu, I don't know, but it's just going to be an absolutely awesome event to watch, I reckon. But next up, we have the Shield Carry. And again, this is one of my favorite Giants Live events. It's head-to-head. It's absolutely brutal. And I think the few guys at the top of this pack are going to be Mateusz. We can never count him out. I think Paddy is going to be up there. I feel like Andrew Flynn could be someone who is very, very good with a shield. I think those top three are going to be an interesting top three for a lot of people. I know a lot of people will put Parr up there. Parr's front carry is very, very good. Obviously, very, very good on the Conans. The same as Pavlo Kordiaka. Again, I can't believe I didn't mention him first. He is a phenomenal shield carrier. Obviously, if he manages to cross the line, he will be really, really good on this event. Now, a few guys I'm just not sure about where their gas tank sort of lies is Andre Foytu, Luke Richardson, Luke Stoltman. They have every ability to do very well on this event, but do they have the ability to keep up with those lighter guys like Pavlo Kordiaka, Paddy Haynes, Andrew Flynn, who are just a bit more sort of athletic, a bit more light on their feet, can move a bit quicker, can breathe a bit easier? Can they keep it up with those guys on this event? I think it will be very, very interesting to see. And I think it's going to have a lot to do with the order of the overhead medley, because obviously if Paddy, for example, shits the bed on the overhead and has to go out first, he's going to have to go in and dig deep and just go as far as he possibly can to avoid all the guys coming next. But then that gives a target for someone like Mateusz, Pavlo Kordiaka to be able to beat that distance. And I feel like if Pavlo Kordiaka wins the overhead and beats Mateusz on it and has to go after Mateusz, then Pavlo Kordiaka can pip that distance. And if the other way around happens, where Mateusz mogs the overhead and Pavlo is below him, he has the distance of Pavlo's really good distance to beat. I mean, it's one of those events where you just know people are going to end up on the floor, people are going to end up tired, and people are going to end up pushed. But I'm going to stick with my guns that my top three on this event, I'm going to put Pavlo to win it. I'm going to put Paddy in second, and I'm going to put Mateusz in third. The reason Mateusz is in third, because even though he won the Husafell carry at the Magnus Ver, I distinctly remember him saying in one of Liz's videos that it's not his favorite event. He gets very pins and needlesy in his legs. And I feel like the lighter guys like the lighter guys like Paddy and Pavlo will just have that advantage to be able to go a bit quicker, a bit longer, and not have so much blood fill up their legs so quickly. Now, the next event is the Anchor, Carry, and Drag, which is another staple Giants Live head-to-head event. This one is going to be quick. It's not going to be the heaviest drag in the world, so body weight doesn't matter as much. It's just about who can shift their ass quickly enough. And I think on this event, we're going to see Mateusz do very, very well. We're going to see Luke Richardson absolutely smoke it. I think he's going to be up there. And I think Luke Stoltman, again, is going to put in a very, very good performance on this. And I think in fourth, I am going to put Paddy. Again, obviously, he is super quick on his feet. He just doesn't have quite the body weight of some of these guys to get that chain and anchor moving. Obviously, it's not that heavy of a thing, so it's going to move no problem. But having that extra body weight on a drag, no matter how light it is going to help. So I think on this event, my top sort of 3 or 4 are going to be Mateusz, I think is just going to mog it. I think Luke Richardson's going to be in second. I think Luke Stoltman's going to be in third. And I'm going to put Paddy in fourth with any number of Pavlo Kordiaka, Andre Foytu, like any of these guys in fifth on this event. I feel like this competition is so hard to pick a top sort of 5 every event because there are just so many guys who are so good at so many different things, and they're so close to each other in terms of being good on those events. So it's just going to come up to who can pip each other on different things and who can cope with the pace of the show. But yeah, I think Gav might struggle on this event just to be able to shift that enormous body weight of his as quickly as some of the lighter guys. I think Andre is going to be interesting on this. I don't know how quick he is, how much he can move. Obviously, he's brutally strong, very, very good. It's just about how much quicker can he move than some of these lighter guys. I think this Anchor, Carry, and Drag is going to be that event that sort of mixes things up for the standings, because all the other events, like overhead, we can sort of predict. Shield carry, we kind of know. Obviously, deadlift and stones are 2 of the most predictable events in Strongman. So this Anchor, Carry, and Drag is going to be an interesting one just to see how people are coping with that fitness, especially after the shield carry where your legs are just absolutely burning who has it in them to be able to recover and get that speed out of their legs to be able to drag that thing very quickly to beat everyone else. It's going to be really interesting to see who has that level of recovery. But as I mentioned, next up, we have got the deadlift. And the deadlift, as I said, is one of the most predictable strongman events. And as I said earlier, we've got a fairly weak field of deadlifters in the top end on this, with Mateusz, Pavlo, Luke Stoltman, all not the best deadlifters we have seen. But on this event, I think in first place, we're going to see Rauno Hainler. I think he's going to want to come in and put in a good deadlift performance to show that he is the king of deadlift. I know he's very proud of that title. I think just behind him, we will have Paddy Haynes and Luke Richardson being able to put up a very, very solid number. I think that's my pretty comfortable top three on the deadlift. I think just behind them, we're going to have a whole gaggle of people from Andre Foytu, Paro Dwyer. I think Gav can get up a good number of reps on this. And then below them, obviously Andy Flynn is in that gaggle as well. And then just below those guys, we've got Mateusz, Pavlo, Luke Stoltman. Where can they get? Obviously, we've seen these guys on this deadlift before getting sort of 2, 3, 4 reps. It'll be who can get that 4, who can get that 3, who can get that 2. Obviously, Pavlo's just hit an immense deadlift PB in training. His deadlift's looking stronger than it has done before. Luke Stoltman's deadlift seems to be in a better place. Can Mateusz keep up with both of those? Or is this going to be an event that's going to cost him the title, as it has done on so many other occasions? It's going to be interesting to see. Who knows what can happen? But I think this event, I know I said the last event's going to mix the standings up. This event is going to sort of lay out where our top three are going to be, because it's going to be about who from the earlier events can hold on to those top spots and who from the sort of mid-pack like Paddy, Andy Flynn, Rauno, can they bring themselves up with this deadlift event and then carry it over in the stones. And then speaking about the stones, this event is going to be a bloodbath. I do not think we're going to see it decided by the stones. I think people are going to have to work hard. And obviously we saw Paddy win the stones at Britain's Strongest Man. He is good on this set of stones. He is good on any set of stones. I think Paddy is going to be up there. Luke Stoltman's a phenomenal stone lifter. He's going to be up there. Luke Richardson can move quick as well. Obviously, Mateusz, you can never count him out on an event like this. There are just so many guys who are very, very decent stone lifters. I'd expect Andrew Flynn to get in them all. I think Gav, if he is in good Gav shape, could come in and cause a real upset on this event by putting in a very good stone run and getting in between people who are fighting for that podium. I think Gav is going to be a very interesting one to watch on the stones. I think it's just going to be a super interesting battle. And obviously, I've not mentioned Ivars so many times on these events. Ivars just barely lost last year on the stone. So if Ivars has a very, very good stone lifting performance, he could drag himself right back up from that mid-pack and end up on the podium again. It's just so hard to predict. I have no idea how I'm going to do the podium, but that is all the events. That's who I think can do well on all of them. And now I've got the horrible task of having to pick a top three on this competition. Right. Let's get this done. So, I think that Luke Richardson is going to win this competition. I think he is the man that drops the least points on the different events if he can hold it together. Like people like Paddy, weak overhead. Luke Stoltman, Mateusz, weaker deadlifting. Luke Richardson, solid overhead, solid carry, solid anchor, solid deadlift. One of the top three on deadlift easily, I'd say. Solid stones. I think Luke Richardson could win this competition. I think we will see our boy Mateusz in second place. I think that deadlift is just going to cost him for the win, but I do think he's going to be good enough on all the other events to come in second. And then the hardest position to pick in this entire lineup is third, because it could be anyone from Pavlo Kordiaka, Luke Stoltman, Paddy Haynes, Andre Foytu. It could be any of these guys. Now, if I run through the events from the start to the finish out of Paddy Haynes, Luke Stoltman, Andre Foytu, Pavlo Kordiaka, these four, who comes out above each other on each event. Overhead medley, I think out of these four, Andre's going to be at the top. Shield carry out of these four, I think it's either going to be Paddy or Pavlo, but I'm going to give Paddy the edge, I think. Anchor carry and drag, I think that is going to be Paddy. I think he can move the quickest out of these guys, but I wouldn't be surprised to see it be Luke Stoltman or Pavlo. Deadlift, I'm going to give it to Paddy out of these guys. And stones, I'm going to give to Paddy. So, sounds like Paddy might be going in third place. God, that's hard. It's going to be down to, I think we could see Paddy in third, and then Pavlo in fourth, and Luke Stoltman in fifth, I think is how that's going to shake up. But that is providing that Paddy is able to get like a decent way through the overhead medley and possibly beat a couple guys like Rauno, possibly Gav, using that new split jerk technique and get a couple points so that he's not down in last place on that event. Because he has every ability. I think Paddy has the ability to win 3, maybe even 4 of these events on his best day. It's just overhead is going to cost him a few points. And I think with seeing the new split jerk, if he manages to nail that in competition, I think Paddy can just edge onto the podium. But yeah, I think third place, I'm going to give to Paddy, just looking at it that way. But with the caveat that if he shits the bed on overhead, I think it's going to be Pavlo who gets the third place. And I think, yeah, fourth, fifth, sixth is going to be someone between Paddy, Pavlo, Luke Stoltman, Andre. I think that sort of gaggle of guys are going to be from third to fifth. And then sixth, seventh, eighth are going to be Ivars, Andy Flynn, sort of, people like that. So that's going to be my prediction. I'm going to stick with my top 3, stick with my guns, and say Richardson's going to win, Mateusz is going to be second, and Paddy Haynes is going to be third. And Paddy bloody come third and not make me look like an idiot. And then Kordiaka is going to be very close to third place, just in fourth. And I think Luke Stoltman's going to be fifth. Even though he looked phenomenal at Britain's Strongest Man, this is an absolutely brutal lineup. And a lot of the top guys have a lot of the same strengths. So that's where I'm going to call it. Leave your podium predictions in the comments below. Let me know if you think I've been too kind to Paddy, if I've been too harsh on Luke Stoltman, Pavlo Kordiaka, been too kind to Richardson. Let me know what you are going to think in the comments down below. I think this competition is going to be very exciting. I think it is going to be an absolute bloodbath, and I cannot wait to watch it. So thank you guys so much for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed these predictions. These are going to be some of the hardest predictions I have had to do just because of how close the lineup is. I'm very excited to watch it, as I said. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next video.